Welcome to my channel. My name's Adeana. I'm an intuitive astrologer. In this video, we will be going over the new moon lunar eclipse we are having in Virgo March 3rd, 2026. For the first portion of the video, I will go over the chart for the lunar eclipse, and then I will get into all 12 rising signs. I do recommend watching the first portion of the video because it does bring more context to the energies once we get into all 12 rising signs. But let's get right into it. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. So let's get right into it. So let's take a look at the chart for the full moon lunar eclipse that we're having in Virgo at 12 degrees and 53 minutes. This is taking place March 3rd, 2026. Now, you want to check your personal birth chart, your natal chart, to see if you have any personal planets or points around 12, 13 degrees, especially of Virgo and Pisces, and some of the other signs, which we'll get into. But if you do, this energy is working with you more personally. So, this is the next chapter of a story we've been in now already for over a year. We would have started this really the end of 2024 when we had that first initial eclipse, but the nodes made that final ingress into Virgo and Pisces January of 2025. And that is when that huge significant shift took place. So once we get into all 12 rising signs, you'll get an idea of how this is showing up for you personally. But one of the things I talked about in one of my previous videos on my old channel was the lunar nodes entering Virgo and Pisces and how this very much was going to be this energy of the universe forcing us to let go of control, learning to trust the process, not needing to micromanage everything. Or a lot of times too, I find we need to control outcomes based on fear. Like we're scared that if we let go, something is going to unravel, And you may have found that over the last year, there's been a lot showing up where you were forced to let go of control in certain areas of your life. Now, also because we're talking about the South Node energy, because the South Node is in Virgo, the South Node represents karmic cycles and the past. So there could be a lot surfacing you may have found over the last year or so of old cycles showing up in this area of life, outdated cycles. This is all about um, purging and releasing and letting go of outdated systems that and aspects of our life and ourselves that are no longer in alignment or no longer serve us anymore. And because Virgo is very much this energy of control and needing to analyze, needing to pay attention to those details and really needing to like hold on tight to control because I mean, I it's not like this malicious need to control. It's hard to explain. It's almost like this need to control because if you understand Virgo energy, like Virgo energy very much is of service. It's that energy of service. Virgos like to be of service to others. And sometimes they step in and they do things for other people, not because they think they're inadequate or can't do it themselves, but they want it done right for them because they just don't want them to have to clean up some mess afterwards because they're, doing something wrong. And it is a Virgo trait, right? But it's not like they do it out of malicious intent. They're doing it to try to help. That very much is this Virgo energy. But one of the things I've noticed in my personal life, and please tell me in the comments below, I'm a Virgo rising, so I'm very much aware of this Virgo energy. And this has been in my first and my seventh house. So I've been going through like huge dynamics and shifts around me and one-on-one connections, things being exposed, especially with Saturn and Pisces in my seventh. A lot was being exposed and brought to the surface last year. And now I'm still navigating this and being in eclipse season. Now there's more to that story coming in that now I'm having to navigate. Also, Mercury being the ruler of Virgo, retrograde at the time of this eclipse in an opposition. And it's not even just it is, a lot the Mercury retrograde. Like, yes, this energy then becomes more internal. But if you look here too, we also have this connection to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, which to me, I'm looking at this as like this is opportunity for internal growth and wisdom to be developed. This is where we start to focus the energy more inward, not necessarily outward. I think you're going to find that this eclipse that we're having, this lunar eclipse in Virgo, is shifting you on an emotional, spiritual, and intuitive level to where you are, it's almost like your internal emotions and needs, what you need to feel satisfied on an internal emotional level is shifting. So if you have looked outside of yourself up until now to feel satisfied in those areas of life or feel content or at home or at peace or safe, that's shifting. That's all changing to where now there is this enlightenment taking place. Our intuition is shifting, our emotions are shifting, and we no longer are going to look externally. It's going to happen from the inside. And sometimes for these breakthroughs to take place and this growth and wisdom to be developed, there does have to be an experience or something that does come to the surface that you have to navigate that is quite challenging because we do not grow through ease and peace and comfort. We grow through challenge and hardship. That is where we grow. Sometimes we grow and we have no other choice but to grow. Right? Sometimes we have to, and that is this energy. And again, I would love to hear your stories in the comments below how you've been navigating this. But I know over the last year, from what I've seen in my own personal world and with others, there is a lot coming to the surface where you are being forced to let go. You're being forced to not necessarily let go of everything, but this is again showing up in a certain area of your life where you're having to let go. And it's not even this need to control, but maybe this need to control the outcome for whatever reason. And maybe it is that need for whatever it is you're trying to control because it brings you this emotional safety or brings you peace internally somehow, you know? With the energy in Virgo and Pisces, where Virgo very much is this detail oriented analytical energy, and Pisces is all about the unseen realms and the universal energies and learning to trust the process and let go and really truly believe in the process. There is experiences and dynamics showing up, leaving us no choice but to just let go because there's nothing else to do. If you continue going in that certain direction, then more confusion takes place, or there is more unraveling of something, right? Whether it's you or whatever the case is. Again, you'll get a better idea of how this is showing up for you when we get into all 12 rising signs. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you've been dealing with this. I know for me, what I've seen through my own observation and in my own personal life, like one of the things I've noticed is this whole Virgo Pisces axis with the eclipses, especially with the South Node being in Virgo and the North Node being in Pisces, that yeah, this very much is this energy of letting go, just trusting, no matter how difficult the situation is, no matter what you're navigating, just trust and just learn to take care of your energy, take care of your emotional well being, your spiritual and energetic self, your physical self. The South Node indicates something that we are releasing, we're letting go of, we're moving away from. And the North Node represents this new direction that we're moving into. So we're going to have a new moon in Pisces in a couple weeks after this full moon lunar eclipse. Now, it's not going to officially be an eclipse. However, it does hold eclipse energies and it is going to activate more to the story that you've been in for the last year or so, right? Definitely since January 2025, but these eclipses, it's that first initial eclipse before the nodes make that final shift. So I would even say the end of 2024, whatever you've been navigating since then. And um, if you watch, I actually have in one of my playlists here, it's from my old YouTube channel where I go into the North and South Node entering Virgo and Pisces. Check that out because I get into all 12 rising signs. And I also go over what the lunar nodes mean, how the North Node represents this new direction and journey we're moving into that is more in alignment with who we are and who we are becoming. And the South Node is very much this energy of old karmic cycles that are holding us back in some way because it does represent our comfort zone. That South Node represents where we feel where we're comfortable, where what is known to us. And so these eclipses shake us out of this comfort zone in these areas of life so that we can grow in these areas of life, or so aspects of ourselves can grow. So this full moon lunar eclipse really is bringing up what needs to be purged, what needs to be released. And because we've been in eclipse season now for really the entire month of February, what has shown up for you? What have you already been navigating, especially since the solar eclipse in Aquarius? Because that's when you really would have felt what this lunar eclipse in Virgo was activating for you. We want to remember that this is not just a 1 day event. This is a few weeks before, a few weeks prior. That does play out 6 months to 2 years. Now, Mercury is actually going to retrograde from 22 degrees to 8 degrees. And the North Node is at this 8-degree point, which I find quite fascinating. So, Mercury is already connected to the North Node once. Then, on the 27th of February, we had the Sun form a conjunction to the North Node. Then Mercury is going to retrograde back and form a conjunction to the North Node again and pretty much station direct on top of that North Node. So we are in these few weeks of very faded, very karmic energy. There is major internal shifts taking place, and this could have to do with our mind, our emotions, our intuition on a spiritual level. This is all levels of our being because we're talking about Virgo Pisces energy, which is Virgo is the practical reality, right? And Pisces is that spiritual realm, the unseen, the intuition, and the emotions. And so it is, from what I feel, honestly, it's almost like there's major shifts taking place on all levels. But when Mercury retrogrades back over this degree, I think there's going to be more to the story coming in. Now, again, because Mercury is going to be retrograde, it's like more to the story, but there's still not a complete understanding or clarity around it until Mercury moves back over that degree point. Mercury's going to station direct on March 20th, and then we'll start to move over. So just a few, I would say about once we reach the end of March, there's going to be more here. Like the energy that we're in, we're navigating the entire month of March. So just also keep that in mind. All right. So I hope this brings some insight to this Virgo lunar eclipse energy. I highly recommend checking out the playlist on my channel where I get into the nodes in Virgo and Pisces, and that'll bring more even information and context to the energies that I'm even discussing in this forecast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. Now let's get into all 12 rising signs. Aries, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine. And so this area of life is being lit up for you. This house rules your health, rules your day-to-day routines at work and at home, your nutrition habits, your workout routine. Also, pets are in the sixth house. If you own your own business, employees are in the sixth house. Coworkers are in the sixth house. Your work and your career is up in the 10th house, but the labor that you put in on a day-to-day basis is in the sixth house, and how you organize your life on a day-to-day basis is in that sixth house. So what have you been navigating over the last year or so when it has to do with your health and your daily routine, and also when it has to do with what you've been doing behind the scenes? That 12th house, which has a lot of energy here, and Mercury retrograde. I mean, this lunar eclipse in Virgo is really highlighting this 12th house because Mercury retrograde is here. Mercury retrograde in the 12th house can expose things, people, places that are hidden, what's going on behind the scenes. This is something to watch for, Aries, whether it's your secrets or other secrets, whether it's something you're hiding or something that someone else is hiding from you. This is huge exposing energy. So just keep that in mind. Now, Mercury is actually going to station on that North Node, which brings this very faded, very karmic energy and direction to this entire month, which is being activated by this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, as Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. Also check too to see if you have any personal planets or points around, either in Virgo or in Pisces and around that 12, 13 degrees, because this energy is going to be working with you on a more personal level. Now, Aries, you already have so many shifts and changes taking place as you have Saturn and Neptune both in your first house now. So there is a lot coming to the surface, and you may have even felt like you've been pulled to take a step back from certain areas of your life. That can also be activated with this eclipse energy. And also the South Node in the sixth house. The South Node is all about releasing and letting go and purging old, outdated systems. And so there can be stuff coming up to the surface at this time or coming to your awareness where you are becoming aware of certain health habits that you have to move away from, or nutrition habits, maybe focusing more on your health, maybe letting go of certain aspects of your day-to-day routine, or your routine needing to shift in some way. Taurus, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your fifth house of children, creativity, passion, romance, hobbies, interests. Everything you do for fun is in that fifth house. And the eclipses have been in this area of life since January 2025. This is another chapter to that story. So think to the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, what has been shifting and changing for you around friendships and social groups, social connections, and children, your creative pursuits, your hobbies, your interests, what you truly enjoy doing and what lights you up. Those areas of life have already been going through massive change the last year. This is another chapter to that story. This is where whatever you were going through back in the end of fall or beginning of fall, I guess, and um, and then the beginning of last year when the nodes made that shift into January 2025, whatever you've been navigating, there's like another milestone to that story. So also to think back, we've been in this energy for a few weeks. So something may have already come to the surface around friendships or around children or creative pursuits, creative projects, really diving deep into also too, I just have to say as well, this isn't going to be for all Tauruses, but because that fifth house is that energy of doing what you do for fun, this also can sometimes represent like addiction, like gambling or whatever you like to do for fun, whether it's negative or positive. And so this is something you do have to watch for with the South Node here. If there is any kind of darker elements to or negative, and I don't even really like to say that, but things you do that you probably should move away from, those things can definitely be highlighted at this time. Gemini, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo happening in your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. And so there's a lot around family in your home being lit up at this time. Maybe there is a family member that is requiring your attention, or maybe there's changes going on within the home. Now, this would have been something you've already been navigating over about a year now. Every time we have these eclipses, the North and South Node have been in Virgo and Pisces since January 2025. We had our first initial eclipse the end of 2024. And so when we have that first initial eclipse, that kind of pushes us into this new cycle of eclipses and change in these areas of life. So the end of 2024 till now, what have you been navigating around your home, around family, and around your career and public reputation? That's going to give you an idea of more of that change that is coming in. There's another milestone. There is another chapter showing up here. That South Node represents something that you need to release, you need to let go of. This is representing your karmic comfort zones. And so there could be a lot highlighted here where you are having to step away from something or move away from something, possibly around maybe a family member. Now, because Mercury is retrograde, Mercury is also your chart ruler, but Mercury is retrograde up here in the 10th house. There also, and because it's aspecting to this Jupiter retrograde, I also think too that this lunar eclipse we're having in Virgo is highlighting and initiating a lot of internal growth and change as well. So, whatever conflict or whatever challenge that you are navigating at this time, there is growth at the end of this. There is change, there is this internal growth and wisdom that can be developed, which I love. Cancer, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your third house of community, neighbors, neighborhood, local travel, vehicles, siblings, cousins, self expression, anything around reading, speaking, writing. And so this lunar eclipse is highlighting all of those themes and topics for you. Now, think back the last year. What have you been navigating around, maybe your community or neighbors or neighborhood or vehicles or siblings or even anything around reading, speaking, writing? There's more to that story coming in with this full moon lunar eclipse. When we have the nodes transiting a certain area of our life, there is this, 18-month story playing out or 2-year story playing out, really. And every time we have an eclipse, there's more energy. There's another chapter to that story. And so this lunar eclipse in Virgo is bringing in more change, more twists and turns to the story that's really already began over a year ago. So think back to, what have you been navigating around self-expression or around your community, your neighbors, neighborhood, vehicles, anything around like podcasting, blogging, anything that really has to do with speaking, reading, writing, siblings and cousins as well. And also long distance travel because it's the third and the ninth house axis. And the ruler of this lunar eclipse is in that ninth house retrograde, which also indicates that whatever is being triggered at this time is bringing in this major, especially too because there's this sextile to Jupiter retrograde, which is in your first house, which I love. There is this opportunity for a major, significant internal growth on an emotional, intuitive, and spiritual level, which I love. And that's one of the things about this actual lunar eclipse, I feel, is that this lunar eclipse may have more of an internal change than necessarily outward change in our physical reality, like physical change. There can be more of an emotional, spiritual, intuitive shift influenced by this lunar eclipse. And we have those types of internal shifts and growth and wisdom developed through challenge. And so, yes, there could be challenge at this time, but this is also how we are growing on a very deep internal level. Leo, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your second house of money, finances, and material possessions. So you've had the lunar nodes transiting your Virgo, or sorry, your Virgo, your second and your eighth house, Virgo and Pisces, your money houses, since January 2025. So there's more to the story coming in. Every time we have one of these eclipses in this cycle of eclipses, whenever we have the nodes transiting a certain area of our life, a certain sign, every time we have an eclipse in that sign, there's more energy coming in. There's another chapter to the story. So, what has really began for you since January 2025, or really the end of 2024, when it has to do with your money, your finances, your material possessions, and your personal values, and your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources. Also, psychological healing and transformation and deep intimacy is also in that eighth house. Now, the ruler of this Virgo lunar eclipse is also in the eighth house. So even though the eclipse is in Virgo, Pisces is still very much emphasized with this energy. So I really look at this, Mercury being retrograde, there's the sextile to Jupiter retrograde here in your 12th house. I really look at this as an opportunity for major internal growth and wisdom to be developed on an emotional, intuitive, and spiritual level. So, but like, all things, we usually don't grow unless we are pushed or shaken out of our comfort zone, right? Like sometimes we have to be pushed out of our comfort zone, or we have to have experiences or dynamics come into our life to really shift us into a new direction. But we end up developing major internal growth in the process. And I think this is one of those energies. This can also highlight something around money and finances. But again, think about what you've been navigating the last year. Have you been thinking about new ways to make money? It is that South Node. The South Node does represent our comfort zone. And so, have you gotten too comfortable in the areas of life around your money and finances? And is there something you need to break free from? Is there something around your material possessions you need to move away from? Virgo, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your first house. This is your lunar eclipse. So you have been going through massive changes over at least the last year since the lunar nodes have been in Virgo and Pisces, especially when it has to do with you and your one-on-one relationships, your close personal connections. Having the South Node in Virgo, you may have found that you are really becoming aware of certain aspects of yourself that you are done with, that you are no longer carrying on with you in this lifetime. Maybe it's forced you to create some solid boundaries within partnerships. Maybe you have finally seen people for who they are, especially with Saturn in that seventh the last couple of years. Now, Neptune is out of the seventh house. You can finally see other people without those rose-colored glasses, but see reality and people for literally who they are. Now, the ruler, Mercury retrograde, is also in your seventh house in Pisces. And so Mercury being, your chart ruler, but also the ruler of this eclipse in Pisces in the seventh house, I think this can also influence relationships coming back from the past, relationship dynamics coming back from the past, secrets exposed, something around an old partner or a current partner being exposed, things just surfacing. There could also be something around a lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings that we just want to watch for. But again, what have you been navigating over the last year when it has to do with you and your partner? Because this can, or just partnerships in general, your close one-on-one connections, even a business partner. This is going to give you an idea of what that next chapter is going to look like. We want to remember every time we have an eclipse in this cycle of eclipses with the nodes here, there's like another chapter to the story playing out, coming in, creating massive shifts, massive twists and turns. However, because we are pretty much, I mean, we will have one more year. We don't have our final eclipse in Virgo until the beginning of 2027. So we're not complete just yet. But I feel like as we navigate 2026, we are going to start to develop this finalizing energy, and things will start to piece together and make more sense. There's going to be more of an understanding. Also, I think too, because we have got Mercury retrograde, we've also got this sextile to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. I think that any significant dynamics or experiences that are showing up right now that are difficult, that are challenging, are going to really push for this amazing internal growth and wisdom to be developed on an emotional, spiritual, and intuitive level. Libra, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your 12th house of things, people, places that are hidden, the subconscious, dreams, the realm that is unseen. This house is all about what is going on behind the scenes, not out in the open. Now, there's been a lot of changes in this area of life since January 2025, or even really the end of 2024, when we had that first initial eclipse, initiating us into this new cycle of eclipses in Virgo and Pisces. So, has there been what is showing up to the surface around more what you do behind the scenes? How have your dreams been? Now, hospitals, asylums, and retreat centers are also ruled by that 12th house as well. And so, because the South Node is here, the South Node represents our karmic comfort zone, something that we usually brings up and stirs up something that we need to move away from, purge, let go of in this area of life. And so there might be a lot showing up at this time around subconscious beliefs and patterns holding you back in some way. Now, the ruler of this lunar eclipse is Mercury, which is retrograde in Pisces, in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, which is where the North Node is. So there is something very fated, very karmic about the energy we're currently in now. Of course, yes, because it's eclipse season, but also Mercury is going to station direct on top of that North Node. So, whatever new direction that you have been working on moving into the last year around your health, around your nutrition habits, possibly even around pets, around employees or coworkers, around your day-to-day routines at work and at home, whatever new you've been trying to implement or whatever new journey you've been taking in this area of life, there's more to that story coming in now, this month, February and March. A lot of this Virgo Pisces energy is showing us where in our life we need to release the grip, release this micromanaging, need to control energy, and learn to trust. Now, because Mercury is retrograde and we also have a sextile to Jupiter retrograde up here in your 10th house, this really shows me that whatever is showing up at this time, whatever dynamic or experience you're having to navigate at this time, there is major opportunity for internal growth and wisdom to be gained here on an emotional, spiritual, and intuitive level. And a lot of times we don't have this growth unless we go through that challenge and hardship. a lot of times we have to be pushed out of our comfort zones. That's what the South Node in Virgo represents, our karmic comfort zones. So maybe there's times where certain things are happening and you like to isolate and you like to pull away from the world. Well, something may be showing up that's forcing you to not be able to do that anymore. Like maybe you're having to shift your routine up or do something to get you more out in the open and not push you to isolate so much. Or maybe there is something showing up because of your daily routine in some way that forces you to isolate. Like maybe unhealthy eating habits. This is just an example, maybe unhealthy eating habits, and then you don't feel well. And then so you're laying down or you're very sluggish or you don't have a lot of energy. Well, there could be something showing up at this time, forcing you to have to shift and change your routine and your health habits and your eating habits so that that doesn't happen, so that you're not, having to lay down and isolate and not having a lot of energy, and you're actually able to go out and navigate your day-to-day life how you want. Either way, think back the last year or so. What have you been navigating around these themes and topics? That's going to give you an idea of what this eclipse is going to activate for you. This is another chapter to the story you've already been navigating. Scorpio, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your in your 11th house of friendships, social groups, online connections. So, Scorpio, there's been a lot of changes going on with your friendships and your social groups. Over the last year, we had the lunar nodes enter Virgo and Pisces January 2025. So, we've been in this energy for over a year, really. We had the first eclipse end of 2024, but the lunar nodes entered Virgo and Pisces January 2025. Now, that south node represents something that we're purging, something we're moving away from, something we're releasing and letting go in this area of life. And so you may have become aware of certain friends or social groups or social circles that are no longer in alignment. There may have been a lot of people coming back from the past when it has to do with friends and social groups. So there's more to that story coming in at this time, but there is also something here that you have to move away from, that you're letting go. The South Node represents our karmic comfort zones. And so there could be something about, social groups or friendships that are holding you back in some way, but it's what you know, it's what is comfortable. While there could be dynamics and experiences showing up at this time that is pushing you out of that comfort zone and forcing you to make different moves when it has to do with friendships and social circles. Now, because we have the ruler Mercury in retrograde in Pisces, and we also have the sextile to Jupiter retrograde, I also think that this is influencing major shifts and major changes and significant growth and wisdom to be developed on an internal level, but it's through the hardship and challenge. It's through something showing up in your world that is forcing you to grow on an emotional and intuitive level. Sometimes we get stuck in these comfort zones and have to be pushed out of our comfort zones to grow. This very much can be somewhat of that energy. Virgo and Pisces, just in a general level, Virgo very much is this energy of like need to control outcomes because we're scared that something's going to happen. Or if we don't control a certain aspect of the situation, it's not going to work out. And what this energy has been showing us this last year and forcing us to do is let go of that control and learn to trust the universe and learn to trust the process. Sagittarius, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your 10th house of career and public reputation, your legacy. So we've had the lunar nodes here now for over a year. The lunar nodes entered Virgo and Pisces January 2025. So this is another chapter to the story you've already been in for over a year. Now, this has to do with your home, your family, your property, your real estate, and your career and your public reputation. So, what have you been trying to balance out in those areas of life for over a year? There's more energy coming in. There's another chapter to that story. The South Node ruling our karmic comfort zone and an area or an aspect of our life that we need to move away from, that we need to purge in a sense and release and let go of. The North Node representing an area of life where there's something new coming in. There's a new journey, a new path that we're meant to take. So there could be something showing up, whether it's an experience or a dynamic, forcing you to really shift out of your comfort zone and because we also have Mercury retrograde, which Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, and we have this nice sextile to Jupiter retrograde, I look at whatever experience and dynamic is showing up at this time, it's to push you into this beautiful opportunity for internal growth and wisdom on an emotional, intuitive, and spiritual level. And this may have to do with certain areas of your life and for you, your career, where you're hanging on too tight. There might be a difficult situation. And because we do grow through difficult situations, that's where we grow from, not the easy ones, right? The difficult ones. There could be a difficult situation showing up around your career, around your public reputation, where you're having to shift something. And because of that, forced to shift or forced to make change in this area of life, there's going to be really powerful internal growth developed here. Capricorn, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your ninth house of higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, philosophy, wisdom, astrology, the bigger picture. So, what has been changing in this area of life for you over the last year? We've been in this nodal journey since January 2025, but even really before that, when we had that first eclipse at the end of 2024. And so, what's been changing in your world around learning, maybe going back to school, maybe traveling, local travel? It's in that third and ninth house axis. The third house is your local community and your neighbors in your neighborhood and vehicles and local travel. And the ninth house is long distance travel and higher education and knowledge and wisdom and your belief systems. The third house also rules siblings and cousins. And so, and self expression, like publishing. So, anything around reading, speaking, writing, publishing, podcasting, anything like that. So, what has been changing in this area of life? Have your belief systems shifted in some way? There can be more to that story coming in at this time. Now, because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, Mercury's retrograde in Pisces, and we've got this sextile to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, I do love this because I feel like no matter what challenge is showing up at this time, whatever hardship, that South Node rules and represents our karmic comfort zones. And so there could be certain experiences or dynamics showing up this time to force us out of a comfort zone in some way. And for you, having to maybe do with travel or publishing or something along those lines. Again, this could show up for astrology. Like maybe you've always wanted to learn astrology or learn something. It could be any subject, really. And there could be like a force out of your comfort zone or a force into something, like maybe even with your career, you're being pushed to like learn something new about, like, for example, a lot of businesses are like pushing the people to learn AI, right? And take all these like new AI courses. Maybe this is something completely out of your comfort zone. You're not familiar with AI, you never really felt pulled to AI, but there could be like this really deep internal growth and wisdom gained from doing that. And that's just like an example. But whatever is showing up in your world, Capricorn, over this, February and March, we've already been in this eclipse energy, but really March is where it's most potent. Whatever challenge you're experiencing, just remember that there is this level of wisdom and internal growth developed on an emotional, spiritual, and intuitive level. Oh, and before I go, this could also have to do with self-expression, which I feel is more in alignment than the story I just told about the AI. Whatever has been holding you back around self-expression, like maybe being scared to speak out in public or doing something around reading, speaking, writing, you may be forced or there might be something pushing you to do so. And then your entire shift in perception on it changes, and then that fear just slips away. Hopefully that aligns with somebody because that just came to me intuitively. Aquarius, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo and your eighth house of shared resources, your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources like taxes, inheritance, debt, also psychological healing and transformation. So, Aquarius, you've had the nodes transiting Virgo and Pisces, which are in your money houses. So, when it has to do with your money, your finances, your material possessions, and your partner's money and your and shared resources, there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot that you've had to review over the last year or so. with this is just another chapter to that story. The lunar nodes entered Virgo and Pisces January 2025. We would have had the first eclipse initiating us into this new story end of 2024. So if you think back to that time period and what you've been navigating around those themes and topics since then, that can give you an idea of the next milestone showing up at this time, the next chapter to the story around your finances. Because it's the South Node, there's something you're moving away from. Like maybe you're releasing and letting go of a lot of old debt. Maybe you're finally able to do so. Just remember, though, that South Node represents karmic comfort zones. So wherever you've maybe been scared around finances one way or another, you may be forced out of your comfort zone. However, once you are, because Mercury is retrograde in Pisces and we've got the sextile to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, there is this there's this significant opportunity for internal wisdom and growth to be developed. This can be on an emotional, spiritual, and intuitive level. It's like your whole internal world can shift towards something that you've been scared to shift due to comfort zones. You know what I mean? Due to you've just been scared to shake it up in that area of life for whatever reason, usually fear, right? One way or another. Pisces, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo in your seventh house of relationships and one-on-one connections. So, what have you been navigating over the last year around your relationships and one-on-one connections, business partnerships? There's more to that story coming in at this time. Now, there's a lot of energy in that first house for you. We've got the ruler, Mercury retrograde in your first house. And so, I think there's going to be a lot surfacing here around things and aspects of relationships that were hidden, even maybe something you've been kind of holding behind the scenes being exposed, or again, even your partner. Whatever you've been not communicating or navigating, it's all coming out in the open with this Mercury retrograde. But think back the last year or so, what you've been navigating around your partnership and your partnership dynamic, your relationship dynamic. That's going to give you an idea of what's resurfacing at this time. And because it can have to do with secrets, it can have to do with what's going on behind the scenes. It could have to do with old relationships coming surfacing, old relationship dynamics coming back in because of unfinished business. These are all things that can really be taking place at this time that we just want to be aware of. Now because we have Mercury retrograde and we have the moon forming a sextile to Jupiter retrograde, I do feel that whatever challenge is showing up at this time, there really is this beautiful, amazing opportunity for internal growth and wisdom to be developed on an emotional, spiritual, and intuitive level. So just keep that in mind. You know how sometimes we have to be shaken out of our comfort zone to grow? Like comfort zones is where dreams go to die. If we don't get out of our comfort zone, we're never going to grow. And maybe this has to do with how you connect within one-on-one connections and partnerships.